Hey everybody, I'm Seminary Kobe, and I just wanted to make a quick video responding to a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Thomas. Jeremy Thomas, he is a member of the Berean community, and he's made some claims, and he actually made a response video on which he tagged me in. It's a response to Chaplin, who came on a while back talking about why Christmas isn't pagan. Jeremy Thomas made a video entitled "Let's Debunk the Debunker," and he's making an argument that Christmas is indeed pagan, and he builds that off the incorrect presupposition that Nimrod has these special characteristics, and eventually he's praised and worshipped, and somehow that connects to Christmas. That's not really my deal right now, and after I make this video you'll see why I'm not even going to get into any of that. But for right now, let's just go ahead and hop right in. All right. So this is already starting at the relevant portion. We'll go ahead and kick it up.
He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. So, this word began to be. Kalal or Chalal.
Halal.
In the Hebrew, 2490.
What he's doing here is he's showing halal in the Strong's Concordance, and you can see in the concordance it just has a list of various definitions. It doesn't tell you which one you should use, and this is an issue for those who use Strong's. You don't know which one to put, so we'll just keep going. Here he's utilizing the free tool on the internet called Blue Letter Bible, and in it you can use various tools to maybe kind of get from it the definition of certain words. Now it's okay if you can't afford scholarly tools like logos or anything like that, but even in using this free tools you can get some pretty decent information. However, he's using the tools incorrectly, and I'll show you why. Pay attention to what he circled here, which was ritually and sexually, and notice where it is. But let's go on a little bit more so we can get through this minute, and I'll explain a little bit more what I'm talking about.
So, as you can see, to bore, by implication to wound, to dissolve, figuratively to profane a person, place, or thing, to pollute self, profane self, prostitute. So he ritually or sexually had his DNA changed. That's what happened.
Well, that's what happened. All right, let me mute all this other stuff. So that's what happened, he says. I want to go back a little bit just so we can have this part on screen for when we need to see it. Did I go back too far? No, there we go, right there. All right. I am going to show you, like I said, he's using Blue Letter Bible to get this. I went to Blue Letter Bible, and this is what he's using. In Genesis 10:8, you go down and you click the tools on there, and it comes up to an interlinear, and within that interlinear you can break down the words and see how they're used. Now what he did was he went to this begat right here. Well, no, not begat. He went to began, and then he clicked H2490 in the Strongs, went straight there. Pay attention to this, we're going to come back to this. Went straight there, went to the outline of biblical usage, thought, well, what do I already believe? I believe Genesis 6:4 and how these sons of God had sex with women and they created this Nephilim. Nimrod must be a Nephilim, and that's why they worship him. So he picked whichever one satisfied that need for him, which was sexually and ritually. However, I need you to pay attention to something. There's a whole lot of other definitions here. Why did he not use those? Why doesn't anybody use those? Why do people just pick what they want? How do you know which one you should be using? I'm going to explain that to you today, and what we're really going to be discussing is Hebrew verb stems, which are called binyan or binyanim for plural, since there's 7 of them. Now, these 7 verb stems are to tell you how a verb is being used. Is it present? Is it past? Is it intensive? Is it causative? Is it passive? Is it reflexive? The way the verb is used dictates how to define the word. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Going back a little bit, the first thing I want to show you is the dictionary aids. It says here TWOT reference 660 and 661. For those who may not know, the TWOT is the theological word book of the Old Testament. Now, Blue Letter Bible doesn't have this, but I actually have this in my Logos Bible software, so I want to go ahead and show it to you. Remember, we're going 60 and 61. So this is 60. Now for 60, this is talking about being wounded. This is talking about being bored through or pierced. So this is not exactly what we're talking about. We can kind of bypass this, as this is not the context for which we're dealing. The one we're working with is 661, halal, which means to profane, defile, pollute, desecrate, or begin. But notice something. It says in the hifel only. The hifel only. What is the hifel? Well, that's what we're going to get into. But before we do, let's talk about when they're used. When the hifel is used. This is all for the other ones, for the profane, defile, pollute, desecrate. And if you have a theological word book of the Old Testament, go through this, because it gives you the scriptures for every time the different way is used. But we're not dealing with any of that right now, because we actually don't even need that. We're dealing with the hifel. Now, why are we dealing with the hifel? Let's go here first, and I'll show you why we're dealing with the hifel and not any of these others, and then we'll get into the theological word book. So let me close this. If you go back in the Blue Letter Bible, it tells you a number of things. It says the English began. It gives you the Strong's numbers, 2490. It gives you the inflected root and transliterated version of this. So this is the inflected, this is the root of it, and this is transliterated, halal. You push this button and it'll tell you how to translate it. But the thing that we're going to be focusing on today is this part right here, all these various letters and numbers. This is called the Hebrew morphology. Oh, made it too big. If you click on that, it'll pop up on the side, and this is called parsing a word. Parsing a word. It tells you how to break the letters apart or the characters apart and what each one means. So we don't know what all these mean right now, and we're going to get into it. Even if you don't know Hebrew grammar 100%, this actually helps you out a lot. This is called the morphology, VHP3MS. All of that means something. The V means it's a verb. The HP means that's what part of speech it is. That's a hitpael. The 3 is what person that is, first, second, or third person. Am I talking to you, or am I talking about somebody else? The M is the genders, a masculine or feminine, and this is how many we're talking about. Is it plural? Is it singular? So let's go in order. Speech, it's a verb. What's a verb? You click on the hyperlink and it tells you right here. A verb is a grammatical entity that describes the subject of a sentence. A verb can describe either an action that the subject performs or the state or condition of the subject. You go to the stem, this is what we're talking about. Already it tells you that it's a hifel. This particular usage of this word is a hifel. So we don't have to deal with any other stuff, but we're going to get into a little bit. A hifel usually expresses the causative action of call. Why? Hifel is often used to form verbs from nouns and adjectives. So we have hifel and we have call. What are those? They are what are called binyan, and like I said, since there are 7 of them, they're called binyanim. There's 7 binyanim, or 7 verbal Hebrew root stems. They each mean something different. There's the call, the nifal, the piel, the pul, the hifel, the hofal, and the hitpael. Now there is a pattern to this, so kind of follow along. We're going to use the word katav, or wrote, as an example. The basic form is katav, he wrote. So this is the most common binyan, indicating a straightforward action. Next is the nifal. It was written is how it would be used in a sentence, and it's often used for a passive voice or reflexive actions. Then we have the piel, which is to cause to write. Now this is used for intensive actions, often making the action more vigorous. The pul is the passive version of piel, just like nifal is a passive version of call. Now this emphasizes that the subject has undergone an intense action. It was caused to be written. What we're focused on is the hifel. The hifel is used to indicate causation. In a sentence is to cause to write, and the hofal is the passive of the hifel, just like the other ones, and this is the subject is affected by the causative action. It was caused to be written. And the last one is hitpael. This is something that you cause on yourself. So these are called the 7 binyanim of Hebrew, the 7 Hebrew verb stems. So going back here, we are only focused on the hifel. Now, in addition to that, we also have what type. It is in the perfect. What does the perfect mean? The perfect is generally designates a completed action or a situation that is viewed as a single event. Perfects are generally translated as the simplest past. He ran, or has past perfects. He has run. Now, they may also be translated as present or futures, but basically what a perfect tense means is that it is completed once and for all. It's done. So a hifel perfect means a cause that has been completed, a completed cause, which is how we're looking at this. Third person is like saying, who are we talking about? It's either he, she, they, or them. How do we know if it's a he or she? The gender, it's masculine, so it's going to be he. Now, is it he or is it they? Well, we look at the number, it's singular. So all that means he caused, or he caused something to happen, which is why it's translated as he began. Now you understand how morphology works, and it's that way for everything. So remember, we are in the hifel form here, just the hifel. When we click on Strong's 2490 and get into this part, remember, he circled ritually or sexually in the nifal verb stem. We're not in the nifal, we're in the hifel. So when we go back here, we pass up the nifal, we pass up the pl, we pass up the pual, and we go to the hifal, which is to either let be profaned or to begin. Now, which one is that? To begin or to be profaned? When you go back to that theological word book of the Old Testament, we have in here where it says the hifel theme of the verb is only used twice, of the name and of the man to break his word. And it tells you the verses in which they're used, Ezekiel 39:7, and then also Numbers 30:30. That's when it causes to be profaned. Like it says here in Ezekiel 39:7, my holy name I will make known among the people of Israel, and I will not let my holy name be profaned anymore. So it's to cause, I will not let that happen. It's only used twice, and it gives you both of the scriptures, Ezekiel 39:7 and Numbers 30:3. For this reason, the frequent use of the hifel 106 times as to begin is probably not to be derived from the same root, unless possibly it developed from the concept of freeing oneself of the obligation to act in a certain way by setting about the business of getting free. Basically, it's saying of the way that it's used, while it could be to be profaned, which is only used twice, or to begin 106 times, they actually tell you where those 2 times are used. So the rest are just to begin. That's why when you come back over in the King James, it renders it as he began to be a mighty one on earth. However, when you eisegete the text, you're going to connect it back to Genesis 6 and things of that nature to say that he began to change his DNA and blah, 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 when nothing agrees with that. The morphology, nothing agrees with that. And again, don't take my word for it. I mean, I'm showing you everything, so you shouldn't take my word for it. But let's get into some critical commentaries as well. I like the ICC, the International Critical Commentary, because it really focuses on the syntax and the linguistics and the morphology of the language. And look what it says here. Nimrod and his empire. This is the section that we're dealing with. This section deals with the foundation of the Babylonia-Assyria Empire, whose legendary hero Nimrod is described as a son of Cush. Unlike the other names in the chapter, Nimrod is not a people, but an individual, a Gabor or despot, which is like a ruler, famous as the originator of the idea of the military state based on an arbitrary force. This is the important part. The statement that he was the first to become a Gabor on earth implies a different conception from Genesis 6:4, from those Nephilim. There, the Gibborim are identified with the semi-divine Nephilim. Here, the Gibor is a man whose personal prowess and energy raises him above the common level of humanity. The word expresses the idea of violent tyrannical power like the Aramaic Gabar. So this is saying this is opposite or in contrast to Genesis 6:4, because it says that he began, or he was the first to become. Again, if you look in the King James, it just says he began, and that's not wrong, but it's a little harder to understand, which is why if you go to any other Bible, like the NRSV, which is the most up-to-date scholarly translation of the Bible, it shows you Cush became the father of Nimrod. He was the first on earth to become a mighty warrior. You can't be the first if there were already Nephilim. This does not connect, not linguistically, not syntactically. The morphology of the word doesn't connect. The Hebrew verbal root stems is not the same. And lastly, the commentators don't agree. All this to say, this is why I'm not really going on with the rest of the video to see what other connections were made, because at its very inception, the argument is based on false presuppositions, because There is not an understanding of Hebrew verb stems and what they do to the word. You have to understand the basics of Hebrew grammar before you begin making these outrageous claims. So I hope that helped. This was just a short video that I wanted to make, responding to this video that this individual tagged me in. I hope you learned from it. I hope you will take it upon yourself to look into these Hebrew verb stems. And I hope at least from now on, whenever you utilize Blue Letter Bible, you're not just going to go to Strong's where it has all these definitions and you pick what you want. Pay attention to that button at the end that shows you the Hebrew morphology. It tells you all the information. You don't need to make anything up on your own. Whatever it says, how it should be defined, take that and then use that to pick which definition you should use. There's other tools that can specify it even more and let you know why. But if you just want to know what it says and not why it says that, at least utilize the tools properly. Other than that, I'm Seminary Covey, and this has been another research tip for Berean Review. And other than that, I'll see you next time. Shalom.